So hi everyone, I'm really pleased to be here today with Mark Dawson, a UK-based author of crime thrillers who has been incredibly successful self-publishing his book. So why don't you start, Mark, by giving us a bit of background on your publishing expertise and how you got started and how you got to this success?
Sure. So I started writing a long time ago. So was first published in 99, 2000 by Macmillan in the UK and Russia, strangely enough, with a couple of books. I had one called The Art of Falling Apart and another one called Subpoena Colada. So one was about a rock and roll band, the other one was about law and about a lawyer. That's my background. I used to be a lawyer. And they did okay when I was given a very generous advance for those days. It would have been an extremely generous advance compared to what you'd likely to get today.
Mm.
But the experience was ultimately a bit dispiriting because as soon as the books went live or were on the shelves, that was the high point, and everything after that was ultimately quite disappointing because there wasn't much in the way of promotion or marketing or anything like that. It was just a question of the books being made available and then seeing whether they caught on or not, and they didn't catch on. They're not. I wouldn't say they're particularly great books. I'm a better writer today than I was when I was 21, 22. So that kind of happened. I then took the thing kind of soured me to it. So I stopped writing for 5-6 years, and only started again in about late 2011, early 2012, when a friend of mine told me about the success, or at least some success, that he was having on Kindle, publishing directly through KDP. So that was the kick up the backside I needed to start writing again. So I took a year and wrote another novel called The Black Mile.
Mm-hmm.
Put that up. Didn't do very much about it, which is annoying now because if I knew then what I know now, I would have probably jump started my career a lot sooner than it actually happened. So I didn't do much. The kind of the first moment I realized that it was something with a lot of potential was when I used the free days that Amazon give you, and just made it free for a weekend. And I remember really vividly checking on my phone on a Sunday and seeing that I'd given away tens of thousands of copies. And it was kind of this is interesting. Even if only 10% of those people opened the book and 5% of them read it, it was immediately apparent to me that it was a really powerful way to get your content directly into the hands of potential readers. So I redoubled my efforts, wrote another book. It took me another 6 or 7 months because these books were very research dependent. They're set in the 40s and 50s. So I'd go to the National Newspaper Archive, and I'd go to the National Archive and would do lots of research, heavy research, to make sure it was authentic. And that book did quite well too. I got a little bit of interest from traditional publishers because my agent was shopping those around. Not quite enough for me to think it was worth going that route, so I kept self-publishing. And then in 2013, I think it was June, I wrote the first book in the John Milton series, which is the one that's really has sold the best for me. And immediately noticed an uptick in activity on that book. So I wrote another one quite quickly within about 3 months, because these books they're modern, they're set in the contemporary times. The research is easier to do. I can do it on Google, that kind of stuff, very easy. So I just started to write those, and I was putting them out maybe once every 3 or 4 months. And then as we got into 2014, I wrote something like 6 novels and 2 novellas, so just short of 1 million words last year. I went from having 1,000 people on my mailing list in January to 15,000 in December, and from selling a few hundred books to selling tens of thousands of books by the end of the year. And in November, I quit my job, so I write full time now. Sales are continuing to rise. I can make 5 figures without too much bother most months, and I have done for the last 6 or 7 months, which is ridiculous. And just generally, it's all going very well. I mean, I've started to dabble in some other things. So I'm putting together a course for authors based around Facebook advertising, which is one of the really powerful levers that I've started to use since Christmas time. That's been tremendously exciting, and things are just going all in the right direction. So audiobooks, I've got to deal with Audible Studios. We've had Hollywood interest with some very big producers interested in a couple of my books. And I'm consulting now for traditional publishers and agents on how they can move into this new space. everything is going, really, really well. Very exciting time to be writing.
Well, congratulations on that, and it's great to hear like a recent success story, because the ones from the early 2010s, the Hugh Howey's, Barbara Freethy, Bella Andre, a lot of authors feel like a bit disheartened, thinking that that was possible maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but it's not possible anymore. But you prove the contrary, actually. So
Yeah.
you mentioned Facebook ads, and those Facebook ads are there mainly to grow your mailing list, right?
No, there's two purposes for them. So one of them is mailing list growth, and that's been unbelievably successful. So well, for me anyway, I started doing that in late January this year, and in 6 weeks I added 3,000 subscribers to the list just using Facebook ads, giving away a starter library as the magnet to get people onto my list.
Yeah.
And then once they're on the list, I have an automation sequence that gives them their free books and then starts to offer them paid books. And I monitor how that's going and how much I'm making from each subscriber and all that kind of interesting stuff. So that works very well. And I've been teaching a few authors how to do that. And my favorite story is a guy in America writing comic sci-fi and kind of Douglas Adams type stuff, Terry Pratchett. And he started with 27 people on his mailing list. And that had taken him 2 years to get to 27. And then in 6 weeks, he had 2,600. So it's, it definitely works, and not necessarily for a huge amount of money either. So that's part one. Part two is driving traffic from an ad to Amazon and selling books. And that's been unbelievable too. But I can typically most days make 100% return on the investment. So if I spend about $300 to $350 on ads every day, and I'm making $600 to $700 every day. So that's great. There are some authors in other genres, and romance is particularly good for this, as it is for just about everything else. There's one author in particular who was selling $200 worth of this box set every month, and last month sold just, I think, $15,000 worth. So and she was making, obviously you've got to invest in the ads to get that, but she was making, I think, between 400 and 500% return on the investment. So pay one, get five. It's just unbelievably powerful right now.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, the figures you show me. I mean, Facebook ads have been around for a little while in the startup industry, so they're a bit competitive, but it's true that authors have only started using them, well, since a few months ago.
Yeah.
And it's exceptional to see the results that you're getting. So for our users who don't really know a lot about Facebook ads, what kind of campaigns do you do? How much is enough to get started, to test it, and how should you test it? Let's start with the mailing list, for example.
Well, I mean, the mailing list is the thing about it. It's so amazing about Facebook ads is the targeting. So you can, if I write thrillers, and my books are compared to Lee Child quite a lot. So one of the things that I'll do is I will serve ads just to people that Facebook knows like Lee Child. So they might be fans of his fan page, or they've indicated they like Jack Reacher, all that kind of stuff. And Facebook will ensure that those ads only get to those people who are more likely to like my books than the general population, or people who like romances won't like my books most likely. So I want to make sure that I'm targeting precisely to the kind of reader that will like my stuff. So Facebook makes that possible. In terms of budget, you can start with really whatever you want. I mean, at the moment, I was spending, say, $50 to $100 a day on this in January. But I've pulled that right back now to just spending $10 a day, and I'm adding, say, 30 new subscribers every day, just at that low level. So it is, provided your targeting is precise enough and your copy is compelling and your landing page is good, so it converts at a high percentage, which none of this is difficult stuff. And I'm teaching people, I'm giving them examples of exactly how I'm doing it and critiquing theirs and trying to improve their conversion percentage. You can do this with a reasonably low budget, but if you've got more to invest and you're impatient, you can scale it quite fast. So if one of the guys I'm working with is spending $100 a day at the moment, and is adding over 100 subscribers every day. So it's pretty easy to see how you can grow a list very quickly if you're prepared to invest, but you don't have to invest a lot.
But then I fear a lot of authors will think, I get the subscribers to my mailing list. Are they going to bring revenue to me? How do you track how much they bring back?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's a good question. They're not as these kinds of subscribers aren't going to be quite as effective as people who've come in after reading your books, because those are very warm subscribers. They've read your book, they like it enough to go to your page and sign up to your list. So those are the best subscribers you can get. The worst subscribers you can get are people who you've found through contests or stuff like that, because they're not even readers. They might be readers, but they're more likely to people who like contests and getting free stuff. So I wouldn't recommend that kind of subscriber, because they'll tend to unsubscribe quite high at a high rate, which isn't what you want. So Facebook subscribers, people arriving this way, are not as cold as those contest winners, and not as warm as kind of people who've come in after reading your stuff. They're somewhere in between, probably slightly towards the warmer side of the spectrum than the cold side, because you're making sure if your ads are targeted, you know that they like your genre. So that's a good starting point. Provided that your books are strong enough, then pretty much you can be fairly confident that they will behave in a predictable way that will bring you revenue. So I've tested this. So in that automation sequence I mentioned, after they've got the free stuff, after a certain amount of time has passed, I'll offer them the opportunity to buy the second book, the follow-up book to one of the free ones that they've got. So the second book in the Milton series, and I track what those buyers are like. I've got a good idea. I know what the open rate is, I know what the click rate is, and I can estimate what the buy rate is on those. And that is the kind of information that allows me to model the behavior that I can anticipate those subscribers making as we progress to different campaigns. And also at the end of that sequence, I have a survey that runs. So there's 10 or 15 questions that ask them specifically, have they bought anything from me other than those free books since they got the free stuff? If they have, how many have they bought? Do they think that they'll buy anything else? What do they think the books are worth? How did they find the automation sequence? You can get all kinds of very useful information with a free Survey Monkey surveys, or even a Google Doc is easy. And when you have all that information, you start to compile it and you work out kind of a composite subscriber based on where they're coming from, and then you can compare the cost of acquiring that subscriber with the revenue that you suspect you might make from them going forwards. And provided that one is higher than the other, you're in the black, and it's an investment that you should be happy to make.
Right, exactly. And do you keep those different subscribers, the one who subscribe at the end of your books, the one through Facebook ads, and one from content, in different lists on MailChimp?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've got different lists for every book. So I've got like 20 different mailing lists. So I want to know if someone comes in reading the first Milton book, I need to know, it's useful for me to know that that's the book that they read, because that will then enable me to market them the second book. And if I know that they've read Milton books, I've got another series that I'm sure they'll like too. So I'll then cross-market them the other series. And as long as you know that, you can just be more granular with your marketing and make it more relevant to the subscribers. And yeah, you absolutely keep the Facebook guys out of the main list, because they're not going to react in the same way that other subscribers who've read your books are going to react. They're probably more likely to be a bit more volatile, not necessarily hugely volatile. And I haven't found that they unsubscribe en masse when I send them a campaign. But they're not likely to be quite as warm as the other guys on the other list. So it's sensible to kind of not quarantine them, keep them apart.
So I'm a subscriber to your mailing list, I think, with one of my email addresses, and I've been amazed at the kind of business-like emails that I receive on a scheduled basis. It's kind of what we do at Reetsy also, and it feels actually yours feels more human than what we do at Reetsy. But which software do you use to do that, or did you hire someone to help you set this kind of automated email marketing campaigns?
No, I did it all myself. I mean, MailChimp's pretty easy to use. Once you get into it, it's not complicated. There's alternatives with people like Infusionsoft, and ones where you can pay quite a lot more to get something done for you even. But I think most authors would be completely satisfied with the services that something like MailChimp or Aweber makes available. I personally wouldn't spend much more than that, and I'm making, it wouldn't be a money thing for me because I'm making more than enough to go to a more expensive option, but I just don't really see what the benefit would be.
Definitely. And before, like you mentioned, this email where you invite the readers to buy the following book in the series. Before that one, you offer a lot of free stuff and try to build a relationship with the readers, right?
Yep. I mean, that's really important. It's one thing that I've worked very hard on is turning those subscribers into readers, then into fans, then into super fans, then into friends. That's the kind of the way I look at it. And so I've got a street team with nearly 900 people on it now. So they, you know, that's kind of closed now because 900 is enough for what I need. But I'll answer every single email. If a reader sends me an email, perhaps because they've replied to one that I sent out, or just because they found my email address on my website and they've sent me a comment, I reply to everything, and I'll usually try and reply to everything on Facebook as well. At least to acknowledge that I've read it, you know, I've liked it, so they know that I have seen their message. And I think that's really important. So it's one of the things I might not be able to do forever because, you know, I've got probably 20,000 people on my list now, and I'm very, very busy with writing new stuff, kind of running the business as well, doing things like this, building this course, teaching people, all that kind of stuff. So at some point, I'll have to sit down and think: can I justify spending an hour every day answering email correspondence from readers? But I'll put that off as long as I can, because that's one of the main reasons I think why last year was so successful. And I've got fans now who I can rely upon to when I say I've got a new book, they will go and buy it. And if that happens in a big enough quantity, then Amazon starts to market for you, and everything is just a completely virtuous circle at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really all about hitting that point where Amazon is going to carry the book for you.
Yeah.
And the launch is especially important to that in that regard, right? To get like the right numbers at the right time.
Yeah, I've studied that quite a lot of books last year, so I monitor it very carefully, and I've got it down now to a reasonably fine art. So I know, for example, that if you've got 1,000 people on your list and you're confident that, say, 100 of them will buy the book when it comes out, you don't want them all to buy on one day. You want Amazon rewards you for steady sales rather than spikes. So if it would be better to have 20 for 5 days in a row rather than 100 on day one and then nothing on day 2 through 5. So that kind of stuff is quite important. And if you've got, like I have, segmented lists, that enables me to market on. So on Monday I'll tell list 1, Tuesday I'll tell list 2. And I can, not artificially, but I can kind of massage the sales into a pattern that I think is best for getting Amazon to notice this new book. And at the same time, we mentioned Facebook. I might do a Facebook ad just targeted to people on my mailing list, because one of the things that Facebook lets you do is to import your email addresses from your mailing list, and it will then match those email addresses with Facebook accounts, provided that they have them. And then I will also serve ads about this book to those people as well. And some people might say, why are you telling them the same thing twice? Because you're giving them an email saying buy this book, and then you're putting an ad in their newsfeed saying buy this book. Well, not all emails are opened, so a good open rate is 50%. If you anywhere north of that, you're doing very well. So that's leaving 50% of people who might not know that book is out, but they might see that in their newsfeed. So that's a good way to mop up. And also, it's kind of standard advertising theory that it takes more than one touch for someone to make a buying decision. So it might be that the first email is the first time that they become aware that the book is out. Then perhaps they were waiting for a train when they saw that email. Then they get on the train, put their phone away without buying. So then when they get home and they open up their Facebook app and they see an ad in their newsfeed saying, reminding them, that might be the trigger they need to actually go and think, I want to buy that book. I'll go and do it now that I've got the opportunity. So that kind of joined up campaign is more effective to drive sales than just doing a mailing list blast or just doing a Facebook campaign.
Definitely, totally. And there's one very cool feature of Facebook ads also. So you just mentioned like what we call in modern remarketing. And that can also work with the people who visit your landing page but don't subscribe to your mailing list.
Yep.
Or the people who subscribe to our mailing list but then don't buy your book, you can remarket to them. But you've got a fantastic feature on Facebook, which is lookalike audiences. Have you tried those?
Oh yeah. I use them all the time.
And how are the results compared to just like targeting interests?
Sometimes better. One of my best performing ads is just a lookalike audience based on my mailing list. So I'll just, for those who don't know what one is, if you import your mailing list into Facebook, and then you tell Facebook, please generate a lookalike audience based on this mailing list. So Facebook will then algorithmically search. It will kind of try and assess what the people have in common on your mailing list. So it might be that they like a certain kind of book. It might be they like e-readers. It could be anything, but they're going to try and create a composite person who's sharing those kinds of characteristics that makes them a good fit for you. And then what Facebook will do is that it will look through all the other people, on Facebook. And of course, there's 1.4 billion people on Facebook, and you set it by a geographical area. So you might say, build me a lookalike audience in the United States based on my mailing list. And Facebook will generate a potentially vast audience of upwards of 2 million of people that it thinks are quite like the people on your mailing list, and then you can market to them. So my best sales ad for one of the box sets that I sell is a 2.2 million person list based in the United States. No other targeting on that. So it's just a big list optimized for clicks, and that generally will produce me between 50 and 100% return every day.
How do you calculate the return on Amazon? Because you don't have you cannot track what happens on Amazon.
Well, that's an interesting question. That's one I'm looking into at the moment. At the moment, I'm using affiliate linking. So you have an affiliate account, so you get a unique URL that Amazon will track activity on that URL, so you can determine exactly how many times your book has been bought by people coming in from that URL. Unfortunately, it looks like, I've been looking into this, as I said, it looks like you're not allowed to use an affiliate link in a Facebook ad, which is really, really annoying. So what we'll probably have to do is you send the traffic from Facebook to your website where you have a sales page, and then the sales page has the affiliate links. And I hate that on the one hand because it's putting a step in between the ad and the buying decision. It's much more effective to keep that out. But on the other hand, you can put things on that sales page that you can't have on Amazon. So I can design that how I want it to be designed. I could have clips from the audiobook. I could have a video. I could have whatever I want. So we'll see. It might be that if that's done properly, the conversion is better than it is by sending the traffic directly to Amazon. But it is another step that needs to be taken. Of course, if that doesn't work, the alternative is just not to use affiliate links and just send the traffic straight to Amazon on a normal link. And then you just have to, you're less precise with your numbers, but provided you know what you were selling before a campaign and what you're selling now, and deduct one from the other, you can get a rough idea of how effective the campaign is being. I mean, at the moment, I can be precise to the nearest percentage point, but that might not be possible if I have to do it the other way around. But it's all being flexible.
Definitely. Well, just to wrap this up and to let you go back to your other activities, because I know we have a proto persona among a lot of authors we know from Readly, and they have, let's say, 15, 20 subscribers to their mailing list. They want to grow it. They've implemented a reader magnet, so they offer a free book if you subscribe to their mailing list, advertise that on their webpage. They're still getting maybe 2-3 reviewers a month, subscribers a month.
Mm-hmm.
What the next steps? What would those be for them, in terms of actionable stuff to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, make sure that the call to action is everywhere. So you need to be advertising that reader magnet on your product page, because a subscriber is more important than a sale. So if someone sees that on the page and then they don't buy the book that you want, don't worry about that, because when you're on your list, you can market them book 2, book 3, book 4, and on and on. So you've got to look at it as a long-term proposition rather than short-term financial gain. So put it on the product page, put it on your author page. Put it inside your book, so front and back. You put it in the front so that people see it if they look on the look inside on Amazon, and at the back if they've read the book and enjoyed it, you want to direct them to your list. That's very important. And then everywhere else, all your social media profiles, link those to your landing page, to where you convert those into subscribers. And provided all that's working, then I'd say look at Facebook ads. That is a pretty hot area right now for really blasting growth. And I found that I added an enormous amount of new subscribers, and it's not just me, other people who've been implementing the same kind of system, which isn't complicated, are getting that same kind of boost as well.
Exactly. Well, thanks for that. And I admit we've started using Facebook ads for Ritzy as well. And thanks to your advice, and it's going extremely well. And one thing that I think is very important is that you have to learn how to use them before you actually start. And there are a couple of great websites, maybe you know some of them, on top of self-publishing now, on top of what you're setting up.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook itself provides plenty of information. They've got a new program called Facebook Blueprint, I think, which is worth a look. It's a bit techy, but there's some good stuff in there. Some good podcasts. I mean, Amy Porterfield is quite a good Facebook advertising podcast. There's one called The Art of Paid Traffic with Rick Mulready, which is pretty good. They're more they're general sites and quite American, which is completely cool, obviously. But you're not going to get a specific kind of reader focused. There isn't really. Kind of big myself up here. There isn't really any other site that I'm aware of that is completely focused to what we do. That's not to say that there won't be alternatives in 6 months' time, but right now, I think we're kind of at the front of this. And I mean, one of the things that we give away, of course, is all about mailing lists, even for this as well. So one of the things that we give away for people who join our list is a free mini course. So 3 videos that give you all you need to know really to get started with a mailing list Facebook campaign designed to build your mailing list. So you could just use that and get started pretty much within 2 or 3 hours of watching the bits and pieces. You could start a campaign and start to drive sales or drive signups. We are getting a paid course ready, so that will be coming down the track. So it covers things in more detail and covers the paid stuff. But if people just want to see how to set up a campaign to start driving signups, then that I'd say go and have a look at that and sign up and tell me what you think.
Excellent. Well, I'll do the transcript of this interview, provide the different links you mentioned, and redirect authors in the end to your new website on Facebook ads, because I think that's definitely something authors have to investigate right now, because in 2 years' time, maybe everyone's going to be doing it and it won't have the same success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Mark, for your time, and I'll send you the link to the blog post when it's ready.
Cool.
Have a good day.
Okay, see you later.